I'm just going to wait. Will we freeze to death in Northeast Tennessee?
I feel like it. I'm not used to this Iowa weather.
Oh, my goodness, my goodness, my goodness. I'll tell you what, Iowa can't play football, but we sure in the world know how to stay warm when it's like this.
No, so, you can't. You guys can't play football.
Tonight I was on my way here, and I watched a guy do his best to navigate an unplowed parking lot, and I just had to laugh. And so I pulled in next to him, spun around. Did
you pull him out?
I showed him how to do it.
Oh, okay. So you were the instructor.
Yeah, I just, yeah. But, yeah. Oh, it's always sunny here in beautiful Bristol, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, at least we got a little bit of sunshine, but I'm not used to single digits. That happens once in a blue moon around here.
Yeah.
And when it does, nobody's prepared for it.
I can't fathom this. I was telling my mother, like, okay, my boys are out of school this week. My daughter, my sons are out of school this week. It's like, okay, wait a minute. It is, first of all, 4 or 5 inches of snow. And then we hit like 11 degrees, or 10 degrees, 5 degrees, 4 degrees. And my mom just kind of looked at me and she's like, do you remember when you would walk to school and it was like 3/4 of a mile, right?
Yeah.
And you'd wear that stupid army jacket, just the army shirt that you had as a jacket, and that's what you would refuse to wear anything else. I was like, yeah, that's it.
What's crazy is here in Tennessee, we'll get out, and I've done this, 7 degrees with a 20-mile-an-hour wind, and you're out there looking for a deer to
you're out there,
you're like, I'm going to go let the air out of a deer in this weather.
Yeah.
But when it comes to driving to Walmart, we're like, nah, I got to stay in the house,
Don't even
man.
get me well, and that also with age. With age too. Like you're old now, right? We're getting older, and so I ain't getting out there.
Yeah, don't remind me.
Forget it. We'll just wait it out. Milk, who needs it?
Yeah, who needs
it's
it?
too cold.
Although I won't say I'm not one of the people who's in the grocery store emptying the shelves.
Oh, dear
which
Lord.
Absolutely blows my mind.
I have never. It is if you're not from the South, it is a fascinating thing. And if you're listening, our peeps out in Colorado and New York and stuff, if you're listening, you just can't fathom the panic that people go through down here when it's going to be a little snow, a little cold. It's almost like it is the end of it is the end. I mean, snowpocalypse, right?
Yeah,
like
we think we're going to have a New York style snowstorm, and it never lasts more than 3 days.
But here's the thing that gets me. Like, okay, there is such a thing as a New York style snow. That kind of stuff happens in New York all the time. And you know what? People continue to live there. Mm-hmm. They maintain. They move on. So there's no need to panic. There's no need to fill your bathtub with water. Like you'll be okay. It happens, and then it melts and it's gone, right?
So, now I've been when I was in Oklahoma, massive ice storm.
Yeah. And
power was out for like a week and a half.
I will tell you, I'll take a snowstorm over an ice storm any day.
Yeah.
I really will.
Oh, yeah.
Ice is tough. What I love about ice is the guys in the big 4-wheel drives that, have something to prove, right?
Right.
What I'm talking about.
It doesn't mean anything on.
Yeah. It means nothing.
Nothing on ice.
Nothing. Mm-hmm. And so I like watching them. It's fun. It's a good time. But hey, tonight I think let's just hit the ground running, right?
Yes, let's do it.
So I had this idea of going through like Vivek drops out, which I'm sad about because even though I think he got all of his talking points from somebody else, like
you think so?
Yeah, just a little, right?
Yeah.
He was saying all the things. I mean, he was like saying all the right things, but he dropped out in Iowa. Trump just slaughtered.
Oh,
everybody.
Laid waste to everybody.
I mean, I think it was historic. Even.
Oh yeah, it was the largest. I think the largest margin in history. I mean, it was the largest something in history. But he carried the largest percentage in history. I mean, it was just it was massive.
It's great.
Massive. I love it.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ask him.
Yeah. That's good. I wish I could do a Donald Trump.
I do too.
I need to work on that.
Jared, I'm awful.
I know what I'm going to do the next time I'm on a road trip and every time I'm in the shower.
Right.
Working on my Trump.
Yeah.
There's some guys out there who have a good one. But no, you're right. He laid waste to everybody. And I don't think that was a surprise necessarily that he was going to, come out on top.
I think it was a surprise that he came out on top like that, though. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? I
yeah.
mean, it was almost like every other candidate played for the Dallas Cowboys, right?
It was. But the big surprise, though, Nikki Haley and DeSantis. I think that was a big surprise.
That was because Haley took the. I mean, she was under.
Yeah.
she was way, she performed way under, which everybody. I think people in the know like us recognize that she probably was gonna because she's got a weird smile and nobody really likes that,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so
Well, I think too the pollsters, these pollsters, just like in 2016, they they were so wrong. And when I saw the tweet coming from Vivek that from his supporters saying, "Hey, by the way, I got called by the pollsters, and the pollsters didn't even bring you up. Like they said, no, you can't. We're not responding to that. We're just asking DeSantis or Haley." So there were polls
rigged.
swayed. It's that part of it is rigged. But Haley was supposed to be neck and neck with Trump in a lot of polls, and it just absolutely did not happen. And she still says that it's a 2-person race, and I think any person with an IQ over 30 would say that no, it's not a 2-person race.
What's funny is she's saying it's a 2-person race and she's trying to include herself and she came in third.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay.
Well, because she does well, she polls well so far in New Hampshire. She polls well, obviously, in South Carolina because that's her state.
Yeah.
So those first, these are the ones that are kind of setting the stage for it. DeSantis, and you never know. They were saying the same thing about Iowa, and that doesn't mean he can't pull an upset in in New Hampshire. And she's not. I think the problem with her is she's going to go all the way because she's got the BlackRock money. She's got the monstrous all Reid Hoffman, the guy that owns LinkedIn, big time Democrat donor. And they've got her. They're just infusing her campaign with so much cash. She'll stay in as long as she possibly can, just as a disruptor for Trump. But when I was watching, I forget the guy's name. Anyway, they were asking people coming out of the Haley events, hey, if what was it? If Haley doesn't win, who are you voting for? Or if Haley's not the nominee, who are you voting for? You know what they were all saying? Joe Biden.
Well, if that doesn't
Joe Biden.
If that doesn't tell you everything.
Yeah, she's a Democrat. She's not a Republican. She's not a conservative. She's a Democrat.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And so I think, we're looking at right now the field getting kind of narrower. She took third in Iowa. DeSantis takes second, which was a surprise to people, especially the pollsters. Trump, everybody knew was going to win. I don't think anybody predicted this by any stretch. And then, of course, Vivek dropping out. It's sad because it's almost nice to have a fourth in there. It was nice to have him in there. He's a new voice.
Yeah.
He called it like he saw it. Since Trump isn't on stage to do that, it's nice. It was nice to have somebody else do it because But so here we are, and I got thinking about maybe Vivek will be Trump's running mate, which would be great. They seem to think alike.
They do.
And but then I thought, no. Who I think would be a phenomenal running mate for Trump? And you're going to laugh. You're already laughing because I told you you're going to laugh.
I know your wheels are spinning.
But I was thinking like Candace Owens.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because here's the thing. You don't want to debate that woman. Have you seen her? Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, even pregnant. Like,
Yeah.
you don't want to debate her. She is very, very sharp. Mm-hmm. And unlike Kamala, she's actually black. She's not like fake black. Right. So here's an African-American woman who is sharp.
Yeah.
And can go toe to toe with anybody.
Yeah.
And so you've got your woman, you've got your African-American or your minority, right? I think it's a win. Go.
So I've my opinion on Candace Owens. I do think she would be a good debater if it was cultural issues. She's been so big in the culture war. That's her specialty. When it comes to debating foreign policy or anything like that, she's been very kind of locking horns, I guess, with Ben Shapiro over Israel.
She did have a little bit of a hiccup, with Israel. Yeah. I will go with you there.
Which again, not an end all be all because there's plenty of people who don't support the war in Israel. Doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be, from a policy standpoint, it doesn't dictate everything else necessarily. So she is pretty conservative, I think, but she is. I'm not a fan personally of just her kind of what's the way to put it? She's too sassy, I guess would be the term. Is that a bad way to put it?
I think
she's not diplomatic. She doesn't seem all that professional. Even Trump at times, though as crass as he can be, can sit down and, I've never seen Candace Owens be sincere about anything. That might be the wrong way to put it, but that's the way I'm going to leave it.
Okay.
It's like emotional reaction to everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe I'm describing Trump here, but
Yeah.
and that's my other point, though.
But see, this is that when you brought up she's a genius on the race card thing, right? So, I mean, a genius. Nobody's going to beat her. Right?
No, if you want to talk abortion, if you want to talk
trans issues,
trans rights, if you want to talk schools, you want to talk all that kind of stuff, she'll go toe to toe with anybody, because if in my opinion, it's not a hard argument from my perspective. We don't believe in mutilating children. We don't believe in killing children. We don't believe in the sterilization of children. All of these things. These are culture war issues, and we believe in voter ID, and these are things that she's brought up. It's so simple. It makes perfect sense, and the hard case is made on the left. Well, she's just masterful at how she does it because of her delivery. It's a very aggressive delivery. It's quick and it's short, and she can, do what she has to do. But I don't think that Trump is going to want somebody that fiery, because they're going to take some of the limelight. That's another point to this. Even though she's good at it, I think I worry about his ego. While I do like him, and I like a lot of the stuff he did, not everything that he did, but I like a lot of the stuff he did, I think to his own detriment, his ego might get in the way with him or with a Vivek Ramaswamy, because they are very good at delivering a message, and they can do it with gusto.
Sure.
Did that make sense, or did I dance around it too much?
No. I think I think you kind of hit it on the head. Yeah, she would definitely steal some of his thunder. But I think to combat what, listen, we're not, as much as I believe we're in a day and age where foreign policy matters and the economy matters, right? Time and time again now at this point, the American people have proven, because the voter age is 18, right? Time and time again, the younger generation, they're not concerned about that. They're concerned about their feelings.
Yeah.
Right. And so you get Obama saying, if my son, if that was my son, to be black too, remember that whole thing, right?
Yeah, sure.
So we've got relatively neutral cultural and race relations going on prior to Obama.
Yeah.
Obama is a firecracker that lights a fuse. Yeah. Right? There's an explosion that happens, and ever since then, we've been dealing with the explosion, right? The fallout of this. This is years of, and people say, oh, it took years in the making. This is years in the making. And, we just celebrate Martin Luther King Day, right? Speaking of which, did you see the Twitter post by the FBI in support of MLK?
That's the one. Did you texted that one to me?
I did, but I never know if you see anything because so often you don't respond. Yeah.
I think I liked this one when you sent it to me.
This is fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the community notes. Yeah, they got them.
Fantastic. Oh, and there were like 5 more underneath that where they actually had the document which they sent to him to silence him. They told him to be quiet.
Yep.
They did everything. The FBI. So look at it. This MLK Day, the FBI honors the most prominent leader of the civil rights movement and reaffirms its commitment to Dr. King's legacy of fairness and equal justice. I love the comment.
It's that's the community notes where people can go in and add context.
Yeah, I love it. The FBI engaged in surveillance of King, attempted to discredit him, and used manipulation tactics to influence him to stop organizing. King's family believes that the FBI is responsible for his death. It's actually
hypocrisy.
Right. It's actually the CIA. But I think, but still, you get the picture. I mean, it's just, ridiculous. But anyway, so you've got in this election, or should I call it what Dr. B calls it, the selection?
The selection, yeah.
Right? In this selection, it seems like we're going to hit again. The cultural things matter more than the practical things matter. It's almost like, I got to be careful how I say this, but in a marriage, right? The husband is all about, like, let's get her done.
Yeah.
Fix it.
Yeah.
Fix it. The very thought pattern. It's task oriented. It's practical. And the wife is always like, I don't feel like that's okay, or I don't, like it's more feeling, more emotional. God made us this way, and it's beautiful and it's great. It's harmonious. I feel like everybody's like a woman.
Yeah, that's it.
Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Because we're voting our feelings. It's like, I feel bad. I want to have compassion for these migrants coming across. We have to have compassion for them. At what cost? You're going to kick the kids out of school so these migrants can have a place to live?
Yeah.
You're going to stay in a 4-star hotel for a year and a half on your tax money?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. At some point, common sense has to rule out and go, yeah, this needs to stop. I think Candace Owens would bring common sense to the table through a woman who is black, who happens to be black, right? Mm-hmm. She can speak to the issues that bother so many people in society, right? Even though they're not really issues. If that makes sense.
It does. Yeah, it makes sense.
Because, like, let's face it, I have a sister who's half black. The first time that she really felt anything other than normalcy was when BLM was going nuts.
Right.
She said she had acquaintances that wouldn't even really know how to talk to her. Mm-hmm. Like, she went from being friends with people at the grocery store checking her out, to like, yes, ma'am. Like, they didn't even want to say anything about her hair or anything because they were nervous they were going to offend her somehow. That's not living.
No, but that's the intent of Marxism. I mean, Marxism is all based off of division. You have to divide. I mean, it's the old divide and conquer, right?
Yeah.
And so if you can divide people along racial lines, religious lines, every other line.
Wait, are you trying to say that are you trying to call people like Obama Marxists?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's a big time. And BLM. You mentioned BLM, but.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they came out and they said, BLM said, we're trained Marxists. I forget which lady it was.
Yeah, they did.
So, yeah, Marxism is all based on division. The whole thing is just dividing. Mm-hmm. And it's easy right now because we've, I won't get off of the VP because I have another comment to make, but emotional divisions, when you get people emotionally involved in your politics, which is what they've done very well, even on both sides. So we're as guilty of it too over on the right.
Because it's two sides of the same coin, right?
It's right. But what we're emotional about is, losing what we love, losing our Constitution, losing our rights, they are worried about taking, and that saying that they are on the moral high ground, therefore they should be allowed to take. So we are the ones losing. We, being conservatives, are losing. Conservative Christians, which I've got a video clip from Joy Reid I'll have to show you, but they're making these emotional pleas that conservative Christians are the enemy. We need to take from them. We need to take any, standing that they have in society and divide us along those lines, because the other side is saying, yes, we are oppressed, or we are this, or we are that, or we are going to bow a knee at the altar of feminism, or the altar of transgenderism, or the altar of something else, and therefore we will help you take. That's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of the vision that we have.
Yeah.
And that's just Marxism 101, culture war. When you can't win an actual war against the people, because they can't. We have the Second Amendment, and we have millions and millions of people that could, in a tyrannical situation, stand up against that. So if you can't beat them in an actual war, you beat them in a culture war. And that's what they're doing. And when you infect
and time and time again, you see it working, but then just like all, I think we're at a place of critical mass with that, where the pendulum has swung so far this way, and now it's coming back with a vengeance to the other side. I mean, you look at, the old state, you go woke, you go broke,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's like we're speaking with our finances, with our subscriptions, we're speaking with our, where it's like, yeah, you ain't gonna tell me that I can do this or I can't do that, right?
Yeah.
And I say you ain't gonna because we're in the South, and but
Yeah, ain't.
like yeah. So for my sister, who's probably listening later, you are not going to do this because, she would always correct me when I was a kid. I drove me up a wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, always. She, So me and Jared are going to do a podcast. It's Jared and I.
Jared and I. Oh yeah.
I
Okay.
would throw a
Oh,
fork.
she's a grammar.
Throw a fork
monster,
at
huh?
her. Yeah, just so.
Wow.
Anyway, so I think Candace would be a great. And Candace, please put your name on the ticket. You're sharp. You're very sharp. You could do it, even though Jared says you shouldn't because he doesn't like you.
I'm just not a fan. I mean,
Yeah.
I think she serves a valuable purpose. Let me say that. I think that it's just like anything. It's like ice cream, right? Politics and commentary, it's like ice cream. Not everybody likes to listen to Ben Shapiro. Not everybody likes to listen to Steven Crowder or all, whoever you pick your poison. But you find somebody that you do like. And that doesn't mean that amongst commentators, we don't have people that we prefer. And she's just not one of the ones I prefer in particular. But she still serves a valuable purpose because she is fighting a good fight. Mm-hmm. I don't agree with Ben Shapiro on a lot of stuff, and yet he's fighting a good fight. So,
Yeah, I
and it's
agree.
not everything. See, that's the thing is, we are in this tribal mentality where Vivek, as an example, we talked about Vivek potential. Well, I think I might have said it, but Vivek is a potential running mate. Well, Candace is hurt because she came out and was talking about how she really, really likes Vivek. And that kind of thing, the absolute hardcore Trump people, of which I would almost consider myself, but I'm not as emotional about Trump as I am about his, policies. And
You
what
never cried.
No, I never. No.
Yeah.
But I try to look at it more analytically
Yeah, I know.
than just that. But they got absolutely livid with her, calling her, she's a traitor to the, it's like, come on now. Like, this is a fight we have to fight. Let's put our thinking caps on here. And we don't have to go hard after her because she said, I like Vivek, but I like Trump. You can have more than one option. And that's the beauty of our process. And we got to see it in Iowa.
We got
to
to
see
it
the
in Iowa.
process.
Right.
And
We
we're
got
going to
to
see
see
it in New Hampshire.
Yep.
And we're going to see it in South Carolina and so on.
You know where you won't see it though?
Where's that?
Is on the actual election day. Probably you're not going to see
Yeah.
the process. I mean,
They'll-
I'm going to stay in my basement and win.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of which, you've got to have the clip, the Illinois.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a little bit of a hiccup here.
I wouldn't call it a bad thing.
Joe Biden might be struck from the ballot in the state of Illinois. Let me tell you, that's a big vote block. That's a lot of electoral college votes right there, Illinois.
Yeah.
And it's one that traditionally they just hit snooze if you're a Democrat, right? You just, we got this one in the bag. Not if you can't be on the ballot. Could you imagine?
Here's my take on this one. So I think that, okay, with Trump, this is an awkward position for us, I think, because Trump, they're taking him off the ballot for completely illegitimate reasons. These are things, saying that he's getting indicted because he overvalued his property. Kevin O'Leary, the guy from Shark Tank,
Yeah.
he came out and said, if you're going to make that a punishable offense, then you better go round up every single real estate developer in the country because
Ever.
they all do it.
Right.
Right.
That's the whole point of it.
Not to mention, they're saying 18 million. He bought it in 1980s, in 84 or 85, for something for greater than that. I think he paid $20 million for it back then, and now easily worth close to $1 billion. Patrick Bet-David said he was down there and he posted just a short video, and they said, "Hey, PBD, if you don't know who Patrick Bet-David is, he's just a massive media empire that he's built in a very short period of time. He's a very wealthy guy." And they said, "How much is this property worth?" And he said, "Well, according to the courts, 18 million. If you ask any real estate developer around here, billion and a half, because he's got 26 acres in West Palm Beach ocean to ocean, like or coast to coast, just gorgeous piece of property, fully developed, like 50 bedrooms. It's a private club. It's making $100 million a year or something nuts. And they're like, nah, it's worth $18 million. So that type of stuff is garbage. It's why they're saying they should take him off the ballot. Joe Biden, on the other hand, has done things that are straight up illegal.
Yeah.
The southern border, which is the case that these folks were making, is the southern border that, what was it? Biden has given aid and comfort to enemies of the Constitution. This is their claim, by the way. Biden has given aid and comfort to the enemies of the Constitution in the United States by, among other things, failing to enforce the laws of the United States, allowing entry of enemy agents illegally into the country, including tens of thousands of military-age men, and abandoning assets of the United States to the possession of our enemies. I believe talking about Afghanistan.
Yes.
And
where, by the way, they're using our weapons against us in Iraq at this point.
yeah, they used them, I believe, in Israel, where a lot of the video coming out had people with M4s and
okay, so
yeah, M4 carbines, which is the weapons they give the military. So this is what they're going after him for. That is, to be honest, closer to a legitimate case, but you still have to solve the problem of the 14th Amendment. Was it Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, where it doesn't involve the president, so it involves senators and representatives. It involves electors.
He was.
He was, right. But for these charges, he was the president. And so if the president's even included, because it's only electors of president and vice president, not the president and vice president themselves, they take a different oath than civil, because it's a civil office carve out.
Yeah.
And they're saying, well, it's not the same thing. So this is what's going to get decided in the Supreme Court. But, I mean, heck, it might end up being Kamala Harris versus Nikki Haley.
So let me ask you this, though, because from what I understand, he swore an oath, right? To so when I read it, and I guess the big question is, when does that stop? If you swear an oath to uphold the Constitution, right? Mm-hmm. Once you're out of office, you don't have to do that anymore. Like, you only have to swear for 4 years, 8 years, 16 years, whatever it is. Because that's the issue that they're having. Trump didn't make that claim when he was sworn in as the president, but as a senator, you do.
Yeah.
And so he did, and then he went back on that as president.
Yeah, then at that point you're only liable for the criminal law and things like that. So
okay,
I mean, you can't. It's hard to violate the Constitution, I guess. If what would be the way to put it? Like, as a private citizen, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, you can, but it's
but like the presidential oath isn't an oath that pledges to support the Constitution. Okay, where the oath of senators is to support the Constitution. So that's where they're trying to get him, is that he didn't support the Constitution by aiding and abetting, by giving weapons to our enemies, right?
right.
But here is an even bigger thing.
I don't think it has to do with the oath. I think it's just high crimes and misdemeanors is what they're trying to do. So they're saying that by giving aid and comfort to the enemies of the Constitution of the United States, it's like a seditious act is basically kind of the way they're framing it.
Okay. But here's an even bigger thing, which I think is even more possible because there's a precedent set. A woman, it's a separate objection. A woman named Beth Findley Smith, she's an Illinois voter, is seeking to remove Biden from the ballot because he didn't register with a notary through the state of Illinois. Mm-hmm. He's registered through the District of Columbia, right? And so it's pretty simple. They just want to make sure the Illinois electorate, the code is upheld. You have to register and be notarized in Illinois in order to be on the ballot in Illinois. Biden is not.
Yeah. This is the lawfare tomfoolery that we're getting when they started with Trump. And that was kind of my question when I first read this. I was like, okay, is this fair play, or is this just what goes around comes around? Is this what we've gotten into?
I think what goes around comes around, the back and forth.
Yeah.
But so the precedent was set when in 2003, the case Jackson Hicks versus East St. Louis Board of Election Commissioners, a ruling by an Illinois appellate court was to remove a candidate from the ballot due to the statement of candidacy being notarized by a notary in Missouri and not in Illinois.
Oh, so there's precedent for it then.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Now, here's what's funny. Trump also is not notarized in Illinois.
So just because Illinois doesn't get to vote.
He's in
They don't
Florida.
have anybody.
Right. He's in Florida.
Right.
The difference is you had to file the appeal by a certain date. Mm-hmm. Well, they filed it at the last minute, at the last hour against Joe Biden, but not against Trump. So there is nothing against Trump that can be filed because they missed the cutoff.
In the world?
Yeah. So now Trump can be on the ballot because nobody contested it.
Right.
Biden,
But they can contest it.
Under this, Biden can't be on it because there's legal precedent set that he's not notarized in Missouri, in Illinois.
That's so crazy.
Isn't it crazy
This is
how
nuts.
this is all twisting around?
Wow.
It's fighting fire with fire. I mean, if you think about it. Though.
Yeah. I think that we need to, I've said for the longest time, they fight dirty. They being the left fights dirty. They will go, I don't think we need to go to the unconstitutional, illegal, perjuring, all that kind of stuff that they're willing to do.
I mean, we don't, and we also don't need to be like, wherever they're eating, you go, go harass them, harass their families. We don't need to go that far.
No.
But I even think what Marjorie Taylor Greene did to Hunter last week.
Pulling out the pictures and stuff in Congress.
It's like, okay, we get it.
Yeah, we've seen.
It's over. It's like enough is enough. This is getting a little bit mean and spiteful. Let's be professional. Have some decorum,
But he needs to face a lot of consequences. Selling influence, that's a big deal. But yeah, you don't need to flash
No.
nude photos off his laptop in the middle of Congress. That's not necessary. But it makes for good airtime. I'm sure she gets. I'm sure she got a lot of Twitter followers off of that, a lot of likes and all that good stuff.
Yep.
But we fighting dirty is. I don't even say fighting dirty. We just need to get more aggressive. We've been such the peacemakers. Meanwhile, the left just rolls over top of us, and it's how we've compromised to the left forever because we're like, bipartisan right now is a dirty word to me.
Yeah.
It needs to be, we like in 2024, this year, there's a lot of seats that are coming up. I forget how many. I looked at it the other day. There's a lot of seats coming up. We can grab some majorities in the House and the Senate. My fear is that when we get people, we're going to get these center line, toe the line, little left, little right, which used to work. We did that for a long time. All the while they were slowly taking our rights and freedoms away. And that center line is what got us things like the Patriot Act, which is a horrific piece of legislation that's invaded our privacy for 20 years and continues, by the way. But we walked that center line, and now when Obama came into office, it bifurcated us like as a society so far in either direction that the only way to recover is for the left to have to compromise to the right. And they never will because they're far more unified than us. We are the ones that have people that cave. We're the ones that put people like Adam Kinzinger into office. Right. And that guy is just a Democrat with an R next to his name. We have plenty of those people. We need true conservatives in the House, in the Senate, the Lindsey Grahams of the world, the Mitch McConnells of the world. They need to go the way of the dodo bird. Yeah. They need to make like a butterfly and fly away and get us in there some Matt Gaetz type people and some hardcore conservatives to say, look, we got the majority. We're going to play this political game, and you want any tiny smidgen of anything, or maybe just say, no, you don't get anything at all because we don't have the money for it, but start compromising to the right.
Well, isn't that what they've done to us, right? When it was all liberal. I mean, it was just like there was nothing you would do. There were all these backdoor deals. There were all these things. We weren't invited to the table. We weren't invited to the party. We weren't invited to express our opinion or anything else. It was just, this is what we're doing, and if you don't like it, tough.
Yeah.
Well, they rammed it down our throat, and this is the result of that, right? I mean, I know we had 4 years of Trump, but you try to undo 8 years of backdoor bad policy
Yeah.
in 4 years, it's very challenging to do. I will say that he did it. I mean, he did a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
But it's almost next to impossible to do. I mean, if you think about it. So in my mind, I hear what you're saying. The problem is that half of America still listens to CNN and MSNBC, right?
Yeah.
And still reads the New York Times. And, Lord help us with public broadcast. Right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So they're not actually, they're voting with their heart,
Yeah.
not with their head.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous.
It is.
Because I'll just say this, out of the two, which do I like better, Biden or Trump? Which do I like better? Oh, Biden's never said anything bad about anybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? He seems like a nice grandpa kind of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a little weird, smelling hair and all that, but he just seems really, really kind and sweet.
Yeah. Sometimes. But
So other than when he's trying to, don't take him out back, work him over.
Take him out behind the bleachers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than when he's being that guy. Come on, man.
Yeah.
He's likable. So you vote with your heart, you're going to go that way to the likable person. Not the one that's going to get it done, not the one that's going to, it's almost like his tweets are so, that was the big thing. We just can't take his tweets anymore. Why? Because he says what he thinks.
Yeah.
That's a lost art.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody does that anymore because they're afraid of the fallout. Not him.
Yeah.
He's going to say what he thinks.
Well, and he does it all in caps too, which people.
Yeah. Which
It's
that
like-
really.
Which that's yelling all the time. Basically,
Yeah,
he yells
yeah.
on Twitter.
I need to go in my safe space because he's yelling.
Right.
But that's our society now. It's become so incredibly soft. Mm-hmm. I thank God that my boys both, they're always playing Army and doing stuff. And, not that I want them to be in the Army, but I love that they just gravitate towards that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, John Wayne is my 10-year-old's hero,
Oh, wow. That's cool.
right? I love that because it's a man. And things that happened 60 years ago would literally cripple society today. I mean, you think about it.
Yeah.
Things that happened 60 years ago or 100 years ago, World War I, right, was roughly, they would cripple people today. I'll never recover from that. I mean, you saw action.
Yeah.
How many people do you know that could withstand what you saw?
Yeah, not a lot.
Right.
Well, not a lot want to. They're there's mental weakness. I always say that we need to increase our pain tolerance. And since I left the military, since I left active duty, my pain tolerance went down exponentially because the life was cushier. The people that I'm around, even though that I was around some, manly people and all that kind of stuff, it's just different.
Right. Well, I mean, you're talking to me. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
Well, people that work with their hands and that sort of thing, there's a very similar dynamic, right?
Yeah.
But my pain tolerance for, stress and all those things started to change. So I have to make a conscious effort to increase my pain tolerance, whether it's through exercise or it's through stress or, just, know what I'm saying?
Missions trip.
Yeah.
I mean, really, right?
Yeah.
That's, you got trouble with depression and whatever, go on a missions trip.
Yeah.
And then and see the depravity of man, and then you come back going like, hey, you know what? Thank you, God. This is great. I don't have a problem. You're like, so
perspective. It just gives you perspective.
Bingo.
Yep.
Yeah. And I look at it and go, we have lost as a whole society has become, forgive the expression, but the feminist wave has rippled through the men.
Yes.
Men aren't allowed to be men anymore. Men aren't allowed to be the way, God,
No.
I believe God created us to be.
Yeah.
And so, and that's the danger of the voting block. This is getting all back to it. Mm-hmm. So, because nobody votes truth, they vote feeling.
Right.
Feelings lie. Truth doesn't.
Yeah. Well, and the headline culture too is a problem, because when you read a headline and it says, Trump wants to Or, well, I'll use an example. They said Greg Abbott responsible for drowning of mother and children in the river in the Rio Grande.
Right.
They pin that directly on him, and it's because the National Guard is down there stopping people from crossing our border.
Wait, he didn't get out of his wheelchair and drown him?
No, but that's the way they write it.
Right.
That's the way the headlines come across. Greg Abbott is trying to protect the people inside of his state. And he is standing between the Border Patrol is allowing this to happen. They are facilitating human trafficking, and he's trying to stop it. Because if it looks like Texas is blocking the border, all these places, Eagle Pass and all those locations where droves of people are coming across, then that's a deterrent. He's trying to do what he can with the resources he has, and he's fighting the federal government. He and Ken Paxton are, I think it's Ken. I always forget the name.
Yeah, Bill is the actor.
Yeah, Ken Paxton is the attorney general.
Yeah.
They are doing what they can for the people of Texas, and yet they're going to vilify him for it. But
Absolutely.
and when people see that, this is the emotional plea, right? Everything's an emotional plea. Well, Greg Abbott doesn't like Latino people, or Greg Abbott doesn't like immigrants. He's a racist. He's a this. He's a that. When in reality, they aren't thinking about the military-age males that are coming across.
Right.
They aren't thinking about Hezbollah that's coming across.
Nope.
They aren't thinking about the Chinese
Nope.
military-age males coming across, that when
Nope.
China goes to war with Taiwan, we get involved. Now we've got people like Chinese loyalists inside the country. Or if we've got Hezbollah and something happens over in Iran or in Gaza, Hezbollah or Hamas that have come across the border, we've seen people from those regions coming across the border. This is the danger.
I mean, and of course, when you say that, I mean, you're not saying that they're all bad. They're not.
No, absolutely, I'm not.
But the point that you're making is his job. Last time I checked, the governor of Tennessee's job is to protect the people of Tennessee.
Yes.
Well, that's his job. He's saying we can't do this. In my state of Texas, we cannot do this, right? So they're busing them places, and all of a sudden those places can't do it either, right?
Yeah. But they're not thinking either about the small towns. There's small towns across the country. I think I talked about it. Well, I did it. It was in one of my videos. There's a small town, it was like Whitewater, Wisconsin, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they had 1,000 people. There's a town of 15,000 people, had 1,000 illegal immigrants inside of their town. They're either getting bussed there. There's a massive amount of money behind this too, because there are people flying into the airport. They're coming from China. They're coming from the Middle East and North Africa and all over the place, flying them into the nearest town close to these passes. They bus them to a spot, drop them off. Then they walk 30 minutes. They're picking up, by the way, IDs. So they tell them this is the location where you ditch your ID. I watched these guys. They had bags and bags of IDs. Because people, when they show up, they say, no, I had to flee. I don't have an ID. This way they can't be vetted. This is a coordinated effort for a lot of reasons. It could be for votes. It could be for, foreign influence and to have individuals in here that could disrupt what's going on.
It makes you wonder where that money's coming from.
Well, George Soros is one, but I think it goes bigger than that. I think
Cartels. You think our government's doing it?
Wow.
It's a big question. We're going to get shut down. So you just say it.
They are complacent and they are facilitating it. So whether they're doing, offering money or not, Border Patrol is facilitating this. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, but you're smuggling humans. This is human smuggling done by our Border Patrol. Irrefutable. And, James O'Keefe and people like that are doing what they can do to bring light to it, but they get shut down left and right. But we've seen enough to where we know it's happening. But I say all that to say that this is whether it's immigration, whether it's, the racial issues, whether it's transgenderism, they make emotional pleas because emotional pleas feed on the uninformed people. So when we are uninformed, if we let ourselves get uninformed,
okay,
then we are susceptible to emotional pleas. We have to look at things rationally and look at what's best for our country. It doesn't mean we don't have sympathy or empathy necessarily for those people, but we have to distinguish between the families that are coming across and the ones that are coming for illicit purposes. And that's why we have an immigration process. And they're just bypassing the whole thing. So that's why I like immigration, because we get the best and the brightest. They come to America and they do great things. But if you let people just bypass it, then you're putting everybody at risk, including the people who are trekking across the desert and the women who are getting abused in the worst of ways
I'll tell
as
you
they're
what,
being trafficked.
Isn't it? It's almost hypocritical.
Yeah.
Because it is hypocritical. If you knew the abuses that were taking place at the border,
Oh,
if you knew the human trafficking that was happening at the border, it's almost like it's almost like you're going to support, Palestine.
Yeah.
It's a great example. If you're a feminist and you support Palestine, you're not a feminist. Don't call yourself one.
no.
You're not empowering women at all. You're actually wanting women to stay locked in cages.
Yeah, you haven't been to that part of the world,
Right.
And people, well, I won't say that I've never been to technically that part of the world, but parts of the world with that particular ideology.
Well, you've been to like the bastion of it, right? Afghanistan.
That is not a feminist friendly place. That is not.
Which,
no.
by the way, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Afghanistan like the hub of Buddhism? Didn't Buddhism start in Afghanistan?
That I don't know.
I think it did. Isn't it funny? I'm going to look it up before I speak, but I'm almost 100% certain it was Afghanistan.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I know that place is well. Yeah. But to what you were saying before, it is not a bastion of feminism. This place is. That's one of those things that can exist in a place like America. And I did a video. I think it was my video last week that I did, but it was I talked about the how feminism has led to that. Like you said, it's led to that emasculation of men, and it's gone so far that now it is. I wish we should play that Vodi Bakum clip video. That was unbelievable. Oh my goodness!
You want a good hour.
Oh gosh, that was great.
Dragons in the Church, it's called. It's fantastic.
Yes, Vodi Bakum, Dragons in the Church. That was good. But no, how these roles have reversed and the effects that's had, and it's what leads us to making these, being susceptible as men, being susceptible to these emotional pleas.
Yeah,
and it's not men like us. I'm not. It doesn't mean that we don't get emotional, but when we make political decisions or we are,
we get emotional. But I mean, getting back to it, right? If you get rid of the emotion and just look at things factually, just look at where we're at. We can't sustain another 4 years of this.
No.
Nobody
No.
in their right mind would say we're better off today than we were 4 years ago. And so do we want this to continue? No. And yes, I will say Buddhism was one of the major religions in Afghanistan until 305, arriving in 305 BC. And then Islam kicked it out.
Did they write CE in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you hate that?
I hate that.
I won't say it. I won't say CE.
Or no, BCE. They use
BCE.
BCE and CE. I won't say it either.
I won't even say it.
No.
And if you
Anno Domini.
if you
the
see
year
BC,
of our Lord.
you
Anno
say
Domini.
BC.
Yeah. Wow.
So anyway, all that being said, we're coming on to a season where we're seeing these candidates rise up. We're seeing historic numbers for Trump. Mm-hmm. And I am not a, you should vote for Trump because guy, or you shouldn't vote for Trump because guy. You should vote what the Lord tells you to vote. Mm-hmm. Okay. But I will say, if you're going to vote based on your feelings, because this is what happened last time, you're going to find yourself wanting at the end.
Yeah.
Because feelings change.
Yeah.
And so what else do we got going on tonight?
Well, I was gonna make one final point on that.
Yeah.
I feel like we, as particularly as Christian conservatives, we are looking for the perfect leader, almost as if we're looking for some, perfect statesman, messianic figure.
Yeah.
To come and be president of the United States, and it's never going to happen.
Never.
It will never happen. There will always be something that you don't like, and whatever the media can hone in on to make you hate them even more, they are going to do it. And in my opinion, the people that the media go after the hardest, this being MSNBC, ABC, CBS, Fox News, all those people, the ones they go after the absolute hardest are oftentimes the ones we need to keep namely Trump and Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
And if they are raising them up as if they're, like Simba on the
Yeah.
this is the one.
Run.
This is the one. Run.
Run.
Right.
As fast as you can. Run. It's the one that's constantly in the media causing trouble.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's some leeway in
agree.
there, but we just have to just come and watch our show and we'll explain it to you.
Yeah, I
Make
totally
your own
agree
decision
with you.
based on that.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's a terrible segue. We could talk about this one right here. Did you get a chance to read that article?
I perused this article. I can't even.
I mean, so this is the type of thing that, by the way, I guess it does work. If you bring it into our talk about the election, Maine moves to create sanctuary state for child sex changes. This is something that's actually gone on, and I believe, and they listed the states in here. ... It was like Washington, Oregon, California. The usual suspects.
Yeah.
And then a few others. And kind of the takeaway from this is the paragraph I pulled, or not a paragraph, it's a sentence I pulled out of it. A law enforcement agency would be prohibited from knowingly making or participating in the arrest or extradition of an individual on an out-of-state warrant for violating another state's laws on bringing the child to Maine to give sex change treatments. So essentially what this means, if you had some wacky uncle, or you had a friend, and your kid says that I believe I'm a boy, I believe I'm a girl, or I'm a girl, I believe I'm a boy, they can take that child into Maine. And this is the way it is in other states. Washington is a sanctuary state, I believe, as well. You can take them into that state. At that point, the parents of that child can say, nope, we're putting a warrant out because you kidnapped my kid.
Right.
The state will not assist.
Right.
They can run that kid through hormone therapy, through genital mutilation, any of those things, and the state police will not assist in honoring the warrant. So basically, they get pulled over for a speeding ticket, and there's a warrant from Tennessee, and they took a kid into Maine.
Right.
They're
okay.
like, you're good because because you're mutilating a child. It's okay.
Right.
That is some serious depravity.
Well, it's beyond depravity.
Yeah.
My question is, okay, so Maine moves to create this sanctuary state, right? But what if Connecticut doesn't agree? What if Tennessee doesn't agree? What if, so I hear what you're saying, but if you get pulled over for a traffic violation as somebody who is on record as abducting a child for sex mutilation, right? What do they say? Are they going to say, no, you're wanted for this? Like what would keep a parent from filing that? I guess the question is, what would keep the parent from filing that if you're from Connecticut and somebody takes you to Maine? You file that with Connecticut.
Right. Well, it's just like anybody. If you're in Tennessee and you don't pay tickets, or you skip bond or skip out on your bail or whatever it is, then they can issue a warrant for your arrest. And no matter where you get arrested, they'll pull it up if you get pulled over for speeding, and they'll find that you have an outstanding warrant. At which case they'll take you into custody. Then they call the attorneys for this like the city attorneys or whoever it is, and say, do you all want me to transport them? Do you want to come get them? Or do you want us just to, because it could be for something small, and they'll be like, no, let them go. They've come back before. There could be a record. Yeah, I got it. He's out of state. He shouldn't be. He'll come back, and then we'll change the court date. We'll work with it. Yeah. Right. We'll get him eventually. But if it's for heinous crimes, they'll say no.
Bring him.
Yeah, they'll say hook him up right now and put him away, and then we'll get somebody to come pick him up. And in this instance, if they got pulled over, if they were from Connecticut and they were over in Maine and they got pulled over and there's a Connecticut warrant, but it was for them taking a child to go get transgender treatment, the cops have to let them go.
Okay, so basically what will happen then is everybody goes to Maine. They'll just stay in Maine because they can't leave, right?
In theory, yeah.
I mean, because the minute they cross that border into Massachusetts, they're getting extradited, right? Or whatever it is. So
yeah, but there's other, if they get enough states to be sanctuary states, then you can travel, from non-sanctuary states into sanctuary states.
You could fly. You could. Yeah, I get it. There's ways around it, right? But I guess my thing is like, okay, this isn't as stupid as this is, I mean, this is
Or
absolute.
it could be, by the way, it could be somebody visiting. So you could say, hey, I know you live in Maine. My neighbor's kid is transgender and the parents won't let him they could drive down from Maine, get the kid and bring him back up. And then they're just safe inside of Maine.
God help us. Yeah. Non-Mainers are welcome to contact.
Yeah. And these are the things that seem outrageous, but they are being pushed into the mainstream conversation.
Yeah.
And that is part of this spiritual battle that we have got to be aware of.
Yeah.
That's
what it comes down to. All of this comes down to the smoke and mirrors, the division. I mean, Satan is called the accuser of the brethren, which literally means divider in Greek. He's the divider of the brethren, which we see in droves now. I mean, like, division is everywhere. Mm-hmm. Confusion is everywhere.
Yeah.
And Satan is the author of confusion. We know that. However, God allows that confusion. I mean, you think about the times that God allowed confusion for, when Israel was overcome and overwhelmed by armies, right? Where God would cause confusion, it would say, and those armies would end up turning on themselves. So Israel would win, right? Because confusion went through the camp. But he's the author of confusion. And there's a platform here now for confusion to be sown. I mean, all the way down to, like, when will Jesus return, right? The end times prophets that we see coming out of the woodwork at this point. Everybody seems to know everything about, and I'm one of them. I'll tell you, not the prophet part, but, like, we do a lot of research and study and eschatology and things like that. And I'm not an expert. I know what I read and I know what the Holy Spirit tells me.
Yeah.
And it's that simple. But I'm by far not an expert. I read the experts.
Right.
The experts don't even agree.
Yeah.
Because especially when it comes to end times, nobody knows.
Right.
I will tell you this, though. When deception's running amok, like it is, when we see wars and rumors of wars, like we do, when they talk peace, which they will, right? Peace and security, we've heard the term from Israel. Those things are signs to get ready. And so, anyway, we see all this stuff, and it's just, it just boggles my mind that people are fixated on the Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of, we can't sustain this.
It's an easy escape. We have so many outlets to numb ourselves, right? This numbs you, right? Just getting on and watching, it's fine. In moderation, everything in moderation. Drugs are something that numb people, and it's killing 100,000 people a year in this country.
Yeah.
But it's people numbing themselves. You can escape into, binge watching TV,
video games
all the time.
like
Video games.
yeah.
All these things are numbing yourself and isolating yourself in a time where we need to be aware.
Vigilant.
We need to be sharp and vigilant. Exactly. Yeah. We need to be praying all the time. We need to be in the Bible all the time. And we need to legitimately be concerned for a period of time as adults. Let's do our part. Let's inform ourselves so that we can make the right decisions for our country, where these emotional squabbles back and forth do not help us.
Right. And that's all we see. Yeah. And that's all we hear about.
Yeah.
Right? Left, right. And there is no center. I'm sorry. There is no
the
center.
center's gone. It's a canyon. It might as well be the Grand Canyon.
Right. It's too far one way and too far it's too far one way. I don't think it's too far the other way. I think the right is right. I think the conservative value thing is very important.
Yeah.
But you can't be in the center because they've drawn a line in the sand on non-negotiables.
Yeah.
So they're saying, well, this is okay. Murdering an unborn child is okay. Mm-hmm. And you can't be like, well, yeah, it kind of is. No, it either is or it isn't.
Yeah.
Right? Or, my 7-year-old wants to be a girl. My 5-year-old wants to be a girl, right? So we're going to go ahead and mutilate them, right? That's okay. That's what they want. No, you don't let them pack their own lunch.
No,
right?
that's true.
You don't let them pack their own lunch.
If you think it's okay for them to do genital mutilation, then toss a pack of cigarettes into their lunchbox.
Absolutely.
you
Because if
go.
they want to do that, they can. If they want to try to eat that,
Filtered or unfiltered,
Right.
honey. There you go.
menthol.
Yeah, you want menthols?
I mean, so if you think about it, it's real simple. We are at a time now, for the first time in history, where there isn't a center because the line in the sand has been drawn on moral truths against moral truths. This isn't a preference battle. This is now, at this point, a battle on morality. What's
Yeah.
right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
And in our society, because for the past 50 to 60 years, we've been taught that morality is relative, right? Which is why, she can be a cat. I'm a cat now, because
Yeah.
that's how I identify. It doesn't work that way. And for us to agree with that, to enable that, is actually to enable a sickness or to create a sickness, right? I don't know. We're going to get shut down for this for sure. but when you say to your 5-year-old, you're a cat, let me buy you a litter box. And when you reinforce that, parents, you're just as guilty as the child. I'm sorry, but you look at the parents of these children and you go, what in the world are you thinking? Because it's your fault for not being the dad who goes, get up, you're not a cat, right?
Yeah.
For not being the dad who reinforces truth into their children, you're lying to your child.
Yeah.
What kind of father wants, that's abuse.
It is.
You're abusing your child by lying to them, I mean, it's sick,
Yeah.
but yet it's okay. It's okay because, they've drawn a line in the sand.
Right.
This is okay.
Yeah.
No, it's not. I'm sorry.
And part of it's going to be us, we have to stand up in our personal lives. So as we have people,
Well, that's where it starts, right?
Right. It starts at the grassroots level.
Yeah.
This is not right. I do not believe this is right. And if enough people it's hard for people to be loud about it because the louder you get, the more the media is going to come down on you. Facebook and YouTube and
Right.
Instagram and all those people are going to ban you. And in the public square, the people who support those things are the loudest. They are the ones who have zero shame in shouting you down in a restaurant.
That's right.
But you know what? It is sometimes it's just that when you have to take the high road and you have to stand on those principles, nobody ever said that those things are going to come easy. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. And for us that say, who we vote for, if that's going to change things, it does disrupt things, but it's not going to be, if Donald Trump, people say, oh, Trump will fix things. Donald Trump's not going to fix everything in 4 years.
No.
Sorry, he's just not going to.
No.
He will make some progress, but he's not going to fix it. It is going to take a concerted effort over a long period of time in our personal lives, in our faith lives. If our churches are supporting some of this wackadoodle stuff, you got to go to another church because that is not.
I think here's
you know what I'm saying?
Here's part of the real crux of it. Donald Trump won't be able to fix any of that because you can't govern morality.
No, you can't govern morality.
He, I don't think, is somebody that is going to be able to live morality, right?
True.
So, it starts with you and I.
Yes.
Okay.
But I will say that the more those things are, the more we talk about them, and when people hear, somebody might listen to this and be like, okay, well, I never thought of it that way, or I never looked at it that way, and that's the mind shift. When it becomes just like we have been bombarded with the bad, we have to bombard people with the truth.
Yeah.
And the more they are bombarded with the truth, something can click. And when somebody like Trump is in office, or if whoever it is, that does have an impact, although it's not the end all be all.
Right. And here's the key: the truth spoken in love. And I think this is the problem with what's happened here is that we hear the truth all the time now, especially with social media and everything, even though they shut you down, and our algorithms on this show are ridiculously bad, right? Yeah. You've got to know us personally in order to watch. I mean, it's terrible. So share as much as you can, overcome what Facebook is trying to do. But, I think for us, the truth spoken in love is so incredibly important. What we see is people speaking the truth in anger. in
Yeah.
frustration, out of sheer frustration, they speak
I
the
do
truth.
that sometimes.
Where this truth in love is different. That's saying, hey, listen, I care about this country and I care about you.
Okay, well, that's where I speak from.
Right.
I might have misunderstood your interpretation of it.
I care about you enough to say, this isn't God's best for your life.
Yeah.
This isn't going to lead you to what you think of. This isn't going to lead you to happiness, because the happiness you're looking for can only be found in Jesus. It's that simple. And Jesus actually says, stop it. Don't do that. So what you're looking for is happiness, and trying to find it by any means except for the truth, the real means, right? Which is
Right.
Christ. And so I just find it fascinating, though, that we getting back to the beginning, because we're wrapping up here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I find it fascinating that we have, as a culture, fallen or been enlightened, depending on which side of the fence you're on, right?
Yeah.
We've been enlightened or we've fallen to the point where we no longer act, vote, speak anything according to truth. We are a society that is totally emotionally driven. Totally emotionally driven. I mean, I watch the NFL, and I don't watch it, but I watched it the other night.
Right.
Because I wanted to see what it was like to play, in negative 10 degrees, and how many people were going to be at Arrowhead Stadium and all that stuff. So I'm watching it.
Yeah.
Complete waste of time. But they got the messages on the back of the helmets. Be love. What do you even know about love? I mean, there's some of those players that know love.
Sure.
Some of those players know Christ and stand for it, right? Those are the same players who didn't support BLM, who are against taking a knee. Those are the same players who love the trans community and the gay community, but don't support that decision. Because you can love somebody and not support them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But the messaging, everything that we're signaling, even in the game of football, is an emotion. It's emotional.
Yeah.
It doesn't belong there. So, yeah. That's where we're at, buddy.
Got to tame our emotions.
Yeah. You got to tame your emotions.
Yeah. That's hard for me, I'll be honest, I'm a naturally emotional person. I get emotionally invested in things that I'm doing, and I get emotionally invested in my patriotism and my love for my country and my love for God. And it's just it's an emotional thing, but we have to, we can't numb the emotion. We have to embrace the emotion, but it's got to be backed up by facts and truth.
Jesus wept,
Yeah.
right? You can't not feel what you're feeling.
Yeah.
However, he was willing. I'm sure everything inside of him didn't want to go through what he went through emotionally, right? We know that he sweat drops of blood through. That's anxiety. There were all kinds of emotions going on there. That was the whole thing going on. He felt everything that you and I feel. That's what the word tells us.
Yep.
So he knows emotions, but he still acted on truth,
Yep.
no matter how he felt about it. He begged God, take this away from me. I mean, imagine the fear. Imagine the, like all the things that would overwhelm us if we knew that our end was coming like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But not Jesus. He was like, you know what? I might feel this way, but I know you, God. I'm trusting you. Which, for those of us that know Christ, there's that internal compass that we have to go, this might not feel good, but I know it's right. And I know that on the other side of this, there's a crown waiting. And that should give us an immense amount of hope and peace. So this season, don't vote your emotion. Stay out of the emotional mess and go for truth every time,
There you go.
because it'll never fail you. And the truth can only be found on Braver Than the Rest. No. through
There you go.
through the Word of God.
That's right.
So,
If you want truth in the news, come to
yeah,
us.
yeah,
There you go.
There you go. Well, as always, it has been a pleasure and an honor to sit in with you tonight, Jared.
It's been great, buddy.
Yeah,
Great.
I love it. Can't wait till next week so we can talk more about Nikki Haley and other things. And I'm going to keep Candace Owen in my prayers. I hope you didn't hurt her feelings.
So I think she'll be all right.
Yeah, okay.
She'll survive.
As always, we are braver than the rest. And if you have any questions or like us to talk about something, go ahead and email us at thebraverthantherest@gmail.com. Again, it's thebraverthantherest@gmail.com, and we will reach out to you and get back to you. Until next week, everybody keep your eyes on the sky.
There you go. See you next week.
He's coming.
Yeah.
He's coming. All right. Over and out.